Hello everyone. We have entered into the new year 2021 and this is going to be my first video in 2021. So I would like to wish all my viewers a happy new year 2021. Now you have seen my videos on Studienkolleg. Now today also I am going to give a video on Studienkolleg but on a different aspects. If you have not seen my videos on Studienkolleg where I have explained I've given a general idea about Studienkolleg. So if you have not seen my previous video on Studienkolleg, I'll give the link in my video description. You can also see it in the I button so that you get an understanding of what exactly is a Studienkolleg, how long it is, or rather why do we have a Studienkolleg. All those things I've explained in my previous videos. Now in this new video, what I'm going to give is I want to explain about the admission for Studienkolleg both in private and in the public. Also, I would like to give some more details about what are the main issues about the public Studienkolleg, how the public Studienkolleg is, what are the main issues you may be facing, and what are the options in the private Studienkolleg, and then what we need to consider and what my personal recommendation is. So please go through the video fully. Even if you have watched my previous videos, I would say that you should go through this video fully so that you will get absolutely valuable information for Studienkolleg details and the processes. Now you know, we have Studienkolleg both in the public and in the private. Now generally all the rules are the same. You have a Studienkolleg whether it's in the private or in the public. All the Studienkollegs are intended to give a preparatory year for non-European Union students. So Indian students, when we go there, we have just 12 years of education here, whereas in Germany they have 13 years of schooling. So we want to make up that 13th year by attending a Studienkolleg in a Studienkolleg, either in a public or in a private. Now normally the Studienkolleg is a one-year program, which is a 2 semesters program. And to get an admission to a Studienkolleg, we need to have a German level of B2. Now these are the things which probably all of you may know. Now what I'm going to explain now hereafter, probably you need to listen very carefully. First thing is that Studienkolleg, even though it's a one-year program, we have certain universities who conduct a 6 months Studienkolleg program. So that will be valuable information for you. Another important thing is when we attend a Studienkolleg, to get into a Studienkolleg, normally we need to have a B2 German level. But the problem in a public Studienkolleg is we have umpteen number of candidates applying for admission to a public Studienkolleg. Normally the statistics says if there is a particular number of candidates to be taken into a Studienkolleg, normally the applicants are going to be 5 to 6 times more than the normal requirement for the Studienkolleg numbers. So that's the kind of competition we have. And when we have a lot of competition, getting an admission into a Studienkolleg is very difficult. And normally public Studienkolleg has an entrance exam which they call Aufnahmeprüfung. Now to attend this, we need to have a German level B2 and then we can apply to the Studienkolleg for admission. But one thing that we need to keep in mind is that Studienkollegs, when they conduct exams, see, number of applicants are more, the number of intake is going to be much lesser. So they will take students on a relative ranking. Suppose we have more than 1,000 students attending a Studienkolleg, and if they want only 80 or 100 or 130 students for the Studienkolleg, normally what they do is they do a grading. Probably we would have done very well in the Studienkolleg exam, but then in the relative ranking they take only the required number of students, then probably we may not get unless we have done our preparation really well. So some of the tips that we need to keep in mind is that even though the entry level requirement for a Studienkolleg is B2, normally the exams are going to be at a much higher level for the language. So I would say when you have done your B2 and if you want to appear for an Aufnahmeprüfung, the entrance exam for the public Studienkolleg, maybe you need to appear with the B2 plus level of German. Because for Indian students, normally the fact is that normally all the Indian students are very good in maths. So normally in the Studienkolleg entrance exam, they have maths and German. So maths, everyone is good. So even if you do very well in your maths, if your German is not going to be very good, then probably you will miss out. So make sure that we prepare thoroughly well with the German language. And even though the requirement is B2, do the next level or a plus level so that when we appear for the entrance exam, we are sure to get a place in the Studienkolleg. And one more important thing which we need to keep in mind is that, see, Studienkolleg, it's conducted by different universities. Now in Germany, each state has different rules for education. So if you want to study in a particular university, you should make sure that you get an admission in a Studienkolleg of that state. If your university is in a particular state, you should get admission to a Studienkolleg in that state. Almost all states have one or two Studienkollegs. I think there is only one state which doesn't have a Studienkolleg training. So normally they take students who have written the exams in their state, but I've heard that there are some states who may take students who have written the exams elsewhere also. But then this, as a general rule, let's keep this in mind. We need to write the exam in the state where you are going to get admission in the particular university. So linked to that university or to that state, probably we need to write our Studienkolleg in the public. And another important thing is that we can write Studienkolleg exams in different states. It's not that you can write only in one state. We can write in different states. See, normally they conduct an exam. Once they conduct the exam, after 3 weeks, they publish the results. And it's going to be very public. You will know if 1,000 people have written the exam, then you will know, okay, these are the guys who got selected, these are the marks they got, and this is my mark. So things are going to be very transparent. So we should write, when you are applying to a Studienkolleg, we should make sure that we write exams of Studienkolleg in different states, so that in case we miss out in one state, we get another state. There are students who get admitted to different states. In different Studienkollegs, they get admission. So what normally Studienkollegs in public, what they do is, they keep a waiting list. First they publish the list of the students who got first selection. But there may be some students who, for their convenience or for their advantages, they will say, no, I don't attend the Studienkolleg here, I will attend in another place. So probably they may leave this Studienkolleg and then go to another place. So then the waiting list person gets the chance. So this is how the public Studienkolleg things will work out. Now the main issue that we need to keep in mind is, see, one thing is that we have the Aufnahmeprüfung, and if you don't pass in that, you don't get an admission. You may have to wait for the next intake to write the exam. So probably you will miss out on time. And we have a rule. There is a 2-year rule which probably we need to keep in mind. If you start your Studienkolleg, the rule is that within 2 years, you have to get an admission in a university. So you need to complete your Studienkolleg final exam and then get admission into university, that is the 2-year rule which they have. So when students go there, when they write the Aufnahmeprüfung, the entrance exam, if they fail once, they may have to wait 6 months for the next intake. So they may write, and if they don't get it, then you are missing out on time. So this is a fact everyone needs to keep in mind. This 2-year rule is there. So when I appear for the entrance exam, I need to prepare thoroughly well. Even my language has to be better than, maybe if they say B2, if you can attend a C1 and then go for the entrance exam, you're sure to get selected for the thing. So make sure that you prepare thoroughly well and then go. And sometimes people fail in the Aufnahmeprüfung. So when you want to appear for the next exam, make sure your language, once you fail, then join a language course and then make sure that you improve your language from B2 to C1, and then you appear for the entrance, you are sure to get. So this is one main thing that everyone needs to keep in mind if you want to crack Studienkolleg. And these tips have to be kept in mind. Now, public students, Studienkolleg is going to be this way. Now, this is where the private Studienkolleg comes into picture. Because private Studienkolleg, see, the content of the Studienkolleg course is going to be the same. The duration is going to be the same. Normally, it's going to be 8 months, which is 4 months of two sections, which is 2 semesters. So the content is going to be the same, the duration is going to be the same, but Studienkolleg in the private sector, they don't have an Aufnahmeprüfung. They don't conduct an entrance exam. So it's easy for students to get admission for a Studienkolleg in a private Studienkolleg. So when they don't have the entrance exam, then how do they assess? They just look at whether you have B1 in German or B2 in German. And they conduct an internal assessment of your German level to make sure that you have the language capability. And then they prepare you. But the advantage of a private Studienkolleg is, in a private Studienkolleg, from admission process until you get settled in your study in Germany, they handhold you. They give you admission very faster, and then for the visa processing they assist you. Once you reach Germany also, they still handhold you for your residence permit, for your city registration, for starting a bank account, for getting an accommodation. So all those things they take care of, so that they give a personal attention. But it's not free, it's with a cost. See, public Studienkolleg, we have no cost. But in a private Studienkolleg, normally you have to pay between 4,000 to 600 euro for your Studienkolleg. So which means it's expensive. You need to meet your living expenses, plus the tuition fee has to be paid. But the advantage is you save on time. You have a cost, but you save on time, because in the public Studienkolleg you have to write the entrance exam, and if you don't pass, you don't get selected. Whereas you can straight away start your Studienkolleg in a private Studienkolleg, and then you save on time, and then you can write the final exam. But there are certain things which have to be noted very well. One important thing is, a private Studienkolleg cannot conduct the Feststellungsprüfung. In my previous video, as I said earlier, you would know that once you attend the Studienkolleg, you have a final exam. Once you pass that final exam only, you can apply to a university for your bachelor degree. So to enter into a public Studienkolleg, you write the Aufnahmeprüfung. Once you get admitted into the Studienkolleg, you do the 1 year program. At the end of the Studienkolleg program, you write the final exam, which they call Feststellungsprüfung. So the FSP exam, that's a short form for that. So when you write that exam, then if you pass, you can apply for a bachelor degree. But for private Studienkolleg, the problem is they cannot conduct a Feststellungsprüfung. Only public Studienkolleg can conduct it. So even if you do your studies in a private Studienkolleg, you must write your FSP exam in a public Studienkolleg as an external student. So once you write that exam, and if you pass it, then as a student who has done the Studienkolleg in a public Studienkolleg, you can also apply to public universities and get admission. But you pay a cost. So what my personal recommendation is, you should assess your position. The 2-year general rule. Are you missing out on time? If you miss out in 2 years, if you don't pass, then you have to go back to your country and again do the whole process all over again. So am I missing out on time? So if I don't miss out on that, then first preference is always public Studienkolleg. My personal recommendation is, you should always try first for a public Studienkolleg admission. And if you fail, if you see that at the end of the tunnel there is no light, then look at an option of private Studienkolleg. Also the advantage is, you don't pay any fee to the public Studienkolleg. Also the teaching facilities may be much better usually in public Studienkolleg. So first preference should go for public Studienkolleg. If you don't get that, and if you have money, and if you feel that the option of getting into a public Studienkolleg is very bleak, then look at a private Studienkolleg and get the admission. But once you have written the FSP exam, whether you are from a private Studienkolleg or a public Studienkolleg, you are eligible to apply to any university for the bachelor degree. So I hope I given you some tips about public Studienkolleg admission, private Studienkolleg admission, what are the main issues students will face when they try applying to public Studienkolleg, and what are the other costs related with the private Studienkolleg. So I hope this video is going to be useful for everyone. And if you are new to my channel, consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like my video, please like it, please share with your friends. So 2021, my first video. I hope you will enjoy my video. I wish you all again a happy 2021. 2021. Until my next video, goodbye.